My name is Zachary Gidger, and today I'm going to tell you a brief history about the Cajun accordion and what goes into building one. So, as you can see, this is a Cajun accordion made in South Louisiana by Mr. Junior Martin, right down the road from UL Lafayette. It is all handmade in Louisiana, except for the bellow and the reeds that are inside the accordion, which come from Italy, but they're also handmade in Italy. So this kind of accordion originates from Europe, specifically Germany, the Germany area, and they started getting accordions in America in, I'd say, the early to mid 1800s, and the earliest documented accordion in the Americas was in 1850. Someone made a drawing of some people playing music on the bank of the Mississippi River in Louisiana, and one of the people was holding what seemed to be an accordion. This was a drawing because there was no pictures. And that is the first recorded evidence of an accordion being in the Americas. Now, later into the 1800s, they started getting better accordions, but they still weren't good. They weren't, at the time they were good, but compared to what we have now, they weren't good. And also, once the accordion, if anything happened to it, if it broke, if it got smashed, if a reed broke, nobody could fix it because nobody here knew anything about it. They didn't know, hey, well, let's just go to the shop and get one. There was no shop. They just came overseas. People brought them from overseas, and a few music shops sold them. And then that leads me to the late 1800s to the early 1900s, where they had the introduction of the German-made Monarch and Sterling accordions, which they look just like this, and they were a lot better quality, and they had a very good sound, and they were just built. They were just built so excellent, and it was some of the best accordions. Well, they were the best accordions that they've ever had, that they've ever played, they've ever seen. And sadly, once World War II happened, the factories in Germany were destroyed that made these accordions. And after the war, the factories that were left were on the eastern side of the wall in Berlin. So they were in communist territory, so therefore we couldn't even get those accordions anymore. So that led to a man in South Louisiana named Mr. Sidney Brown to deconstruct an accordion, study it, and then take parts from an old accordion and start making his own accordions. Now, they weren't the best accordions. They were just something, and he knew how to fix them. He knew how to tune them. He figured that all out. And then over time, he taught people, and those people perfected their art. And then after that, the people they would teach would perfect it, and that gets us to where we are today. Those Monarch and Sterling accordions basically laid the foundation for what we knew was a very good and solid accordion. And since they had to learn from scratch, that was the only way they knew how to build it, from handmade. They weren't in a factory. They didn't have all these parts laying around to just put it together. So they had to hand make everything. And what that did is it made the accordion builders in South Louisiana some of the best accordion builders in the world. And there are people all over the world, Europe, all across the Americas. I've even seen someone in Japan playing one. A Louisiana handmade accordion. And since the whole accordion is handmade, it gives it a much better quality than the accordions that are made in Europe that are made in a factory. This might come to a surprise, but it takes 100 man hours to make one of these things. And it's insane. Because if I would take this thing apart and show it to you, it's just wood. It's just wood and the middle's cardboard. That's all it is. But to put it into perspective, the keyboard right here, excluding the rockers, which are these little black pieces in there that hold the flap onto the keyboard, this is 14 pieces of wood that are cut apart and glued together to make the fingerboard. You would think, well, why don't they just get one solid piece of wood and make the fingerboard with it? Well, it wouldn't be straight. So they have to cut 14 individual pieces of wood and glue it all together. Now, with any other handmade instrument, it's going to have a lot of value. And one like this, in general, they go for around $2,000 to $3,000. I've been around accordions almost my whole life. They just grab your attention. They're loud. And that's what they're known for. They're very loud. I would record it and show you, but it's too loud for my microphone. It doesn't work. Thank you all for listening. And that was my brief history of the Cajun accordion and how they are made.